Hey everyone, welcome back to ATX VGC's Monday Night Friendlies. So we are here tonight with the very first of the Series 7 for Monday Night Friendlies. We are so excited to bring these to y'all. We've got 4 incredible battles lined up, and it's actually a week where none of the 4 of us will be playing, which is also super unique and doesn't happen every week. A lot of excitement coming in from the Discord as everyone's highly anticipating Series 7. So we're really excited to bring these to you.
I will say, I wasn't expecting to see very much Tapu Lele. With us figuring out that it does not get Expanding Force, as none of the Tapus get the Isle of Armor move tutor moves, I was just expecting to see the usage drop from everyone spamming Expanding Force Tapu Lele with the choice specs to absolutely nobody using it.
Yeah.
But in our first game, we do see it.
Yeah, for sure. So this team right here, if I'm not mistaken, this looks like it is a team by Moxie Boosted, trying to continue to iterate on his Evil plus Psychic Surge setter. In the past, it was in DD. I believe he typically ran in DD Male with a Life Orb or Choice Scarf. And hey, thanks so much for the resubscription, Nibs Plays Games. Thanks for the 2 months. Nibs, one of our commentators here. So, yeah, this is a team, I believe, that's been theoried around and knocked around by Moxie. So let's go ahead and take a peek here as we see some hyper offense coming from Justin as well. I'm sorry, not hyper offense, Sun. I thought that was Porygon Z for a second. It's Porygon 2 on the overlay. There we go.
Yeah, so from Justin's side, we see the Metagross, Porygon 2, Charizard, Tapu Fini, Incineroar, and Landorus. It is your kind of Sun without the Sun setter, but a lot of like the common themes that we did see in the Warriors Cup and on ladder recently of a lot of people trying out Porygon 2 plus Metagross as their new like kind of Trick Room duo, as opposed to the previous Dusclops Tyranitar and things of that sort.
Yeah, for sure. And we see here, we saw, at least in the tournament this past weekend, which is the majority of my exposure here to Series 7, how much Metagross was running around. It felt like that thing was almost everywhere. And when we look here in VGC 2020, this is going to be the first format where Metagross doesn't have access to its Mega Evolution in several generations. So a lot of what you know about Metagross, you kind of have to adjust slightly from past formats.
Yeah, I get it. While it doesn't have its Dynamax or its Mega Evolution, it does now have Dynamax, which is I guess different, but still strong in its own sense. It's one of the best Pokemon to benefit from Dynamax with a stab boosted max steel spike, along with the clear body ability, protecting it from opposing max moves, extra effects.
Yeah.
So it could be, even though with the nerf of not having its Mega Evolution, even in an even better position than it was previously.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think previously it was a decision of when you wanted to click that Mega Evolution button for fear of a switching in Incineroar. Now you don't have that at all. So we see here the leads right away from Justin Snores are going to be Incineroar and Porygon 2 against the Thievul and Indeedee lead coming out from from Woke Flossie here. So I think we're about to see a Psychic Seed plus an Unburdened Thievul.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. And there we do. We see the Psychic Seed proc on this Thievul. And I mean, what do you think it's going to do this turn? Do you think like a Fake Tears boosted attack into this Porygon could KO it before it sets up Trick Room?
Yeah, that's definitely, you know, we know that it has access to Fake Tears, we know it has access to Snarl, it has access to Howl as well, and other just generally disruptive moves, and I believe the 4th move that's typically run on this team is Foul Play. That's not a move you're really going to get a whole lot of usage out of right now, but as we can see here, like we talked about, it looks like she's going to be going ahead and going for that Fake Tears plus a Psychic Terrain boosted Psychic move here.
Yeah, as we do see the Fake Tears go off into the Porygon, I would believe directly followed by the Psychic, yes.
Yeah.
And as we see that, and it is not enough to get the KO.
Yeah, so this is going to leave Justin in a position to go ahead and set up Trick Room and bring in the Metagross if that's what he so chooses, knowing that this Indeedee is likely incredibly fast now.
Yeah, I would say at this point the Metagross pretty much has a free Steel Spike into either of the 2 Pokemon. There's not really any sort of threat from the Tapu Lele, assuming that it is choice locked, as Justin would probably assume, based on the similarities to Moxie's old teams. But I would say that this Metagross is pretty free to either Steel Spike into the Thievul, double into the Thievul with both Pokemon.
Oh, we are we'll ask you there for just a second, but I believe what you were saying was Justin's pretty free to go ahead and Steel Spike into that Thievul there, for fear of that being the only thing that can really put a whole lot of pressure in on this Metagross on the field.
Yeah, that is what I would think is what happens. Potentially a Steel Spike into...
Oh, we see no Dynamax here on turn 1. Just a Tri-Attack from the Porygon 2, and a Hammer Arm coming out from the Metagross, and that's going to be enough to go ahead and pick up the KO. Perhaps Justin was a little afraid that maybe a Max Knuckle wasn't going to be enough, or opting just to go ahead and drop his speed even more here in Trick Room.
Mm-hmm. I would guess it's more so the damage calc. Looking at nothing on Woke Flossy's team could potentially underspeed even a neutral speed Metagross.
Yeah, exactly. As I say that, I'm looking back at our team, and it's incredibly fast, so...
Yeah.
Let's see here what the switches are. We see Galarian Zapdos. This is Galarian Zapdos' debut here on the ATX VGC Monday Night Friendlies. We see the Defiant proc immediately going ahead and putting it in a position to deal more damage, but unfortunately for this Zapdos, it's pretty threatened by a Metagross sitting on the other side of the field.
Yeah, a Metagross potentially with a Zen Headbutt, Max Mindstorm boosted by this Lele Psychic terrain. It's a pretty big threat at this point, and it looks very tough for Woke Flossy to deal with the Lele kind of being dead weight at this point, dealing either not very effective damage into the Metagross or nothing into the Incineroar.
Yeah, you gotta wonder if she's gonna want to potentially pivot that out. But, you know, assuming that Justin views that as more or less dead weight, he might even read into it and go for like a Darkest Lariat here into this Dragon Bolt slot, dealing a bunch of damage and picking up a double KO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we do finally see Dynamax coming from one of these two players, as Justin Snorla's Dynamax is his Metagross. And kind of it is in the prime position right here to sweep, not being able to have its attack dropped at all, and being at halftime speed in Trick Room, there's not really much stopping it.
Yep, looks like this first game is likely gonna go ahead and go to him. We see the Zapdos go ahead and go for the Protect here, trying to stall out maybe one Max Mindstorm, see if potentially it can be in a position after. It looks like Justin opted to actually go for damage onto that Lele this last turn, so the Zapdos will be safe with this Protect, not going to be taking any damage from an Incineroar. That Dragapult is down to nearly, 8 HP, I believe? So it's pretty much gone.
Yeah, and at this point, Justin can choose to just double into the Zapdos without any real consequences, because assuming that the Dragapult is Life Orb, or even if it is not, at 8 HP, it's not going to be much of a threat to him at this point in the game.
Yeah, for sure. And then from there, what do you think you would opt to go ahead and double into? Do you maybe try and read a switch into the Lele and go for a Steel Spike, or do you just go for that big Max Mindstorm boost?
I think the combination of Max Mindstorm plus Flare Blitz would KO both the Zapdos and the Tapu Lele.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is probably the safest option if that's what Justin Snorlax chooses to do. If not, I mean, attacking into, like, hitting one attack into the Zapdos and trying to finish off the Dragapult with Incineroar is not a bad decision either. I mean, let's just see what he does.
Yeah. Justin in a pretty commanding position here in Game 1, as we do see Amy opt to go ahead and switch out that Zapdos with the boosts, send it back, but put it in a position to where it is safe outside of Trick Room this next turn. So, right away we see the Protect come out from the Dragapult as the Max Steel Spike goes into this Tapu Lele, and that's going to be enough to just go and pick up a one-hit KO.
Yeah, at this point, just having a pretty much 0 HP Dragapult along with a Zapdos against a +2 defense Incineroar and +2 defense Metagross with one turn of Dynamax left is going to be a pretty tough job to get through.
Yeah, and we see the reveal here from Justin on what the dark move that this Incineroar is carrying, and that is Lash Out.
Mm-hmm. And I believe, do we have one more turn of Trick Room left?
I think that this is the last turn, and Amy has yet to use her Dynamax, so that is the one piece where she could potentially start to swing things here with maybe a Max Guard, if the Max Guard isn't almost too obvious, opting to go ahead and attack, and but I mean at the same time it's going to be taking a whole lot of damage if it attacks, because one hit will go ahead and knock out the Dragapult if Justin is reading the Max Guard, and then the Incineroar will come in for at least some damage onto this Galarian Zapdos.
Yeah, and even going for the max guard, wasting one turn of your own Dynamax probably is going to spell defeat here, as you can't get enough damage out into this opposing Metagross, even out of its Dynamax.
Yeah. Yeah, +2, it's going to be really tough barring a crit, which I realize I should stop saying because I can't tell you how many crits and flinches into existence over the past weekend while we were commentating. So we see here the max guard will go ahead and eat up that max steel spike, so perhaps a really good play there, and the lash out is just going to go ahead and finish off this Dragapult.
Yeah, I have to say, Dynamax Galarian Zapdos has incredibly large feet.
It really does. That's not something I want to take a thunderous kick from, I'll say.
Yes, it has like comedically large feet. The design, it looks incredible when Dynamaxed.
Yeah, so the one thing that we haven't seen from this Metagross is what the item is. We don't know, is this a weakness policy variant? Is it, we haven't seen any kind of Life Orb proc, and we haven't seen it go for any kind of protecting or non-damaging moves. So do you think that the reveal of Hammer Arm tells us a little bit about what this item might be on this Metagross?
It could potentially signal that it is an Assault Vest variant. Generally, you see something like a Max Quake, Max Steel Spike, and Max Mindstorm, or even Max Hailstorm as the attacks.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it could just be going for like 2 stabs plus Max Knuckle and a weakness policy set. So we really can't fully. Oh, as we see
Thunder Punch reveal, incredibly interesting there, as Galarian Zapdos no longer has its electric typing and does take super effective damage from electric type moves.
Yeah, at this point I would guess with a combination of Thunder Punch and Hammer Arm that it would be Assault Vest, but it very well could just be 4 attacks, weakness policy, or something of the sort.
Yeah, so right here it feels like Amy is doing a little bit to gain more information about how much damage she can do with this Zapdos into game number 3, or into game number 2, as it looks like game number 1 here is going to go ahead and be wrapped up by Justin Snores as we see that gigantic Big Bird take a dive on the field.
Yeah, Justin pretty commandingly takes this game. I think the one thing that Wilk Fossey is going to have to realize is that the combination of the Thievul plus the Lele doesn't take care of the Trick Room mode because Porygon 2 is a little bit too bulky, potentially leading the Zapdos, giving an option into the Incineroar plus Porygon 2 to proc Defiant, and if Incineroar isn't led, you can taunt the Porygon 2. Other than that, it's going to just be a complete readjustment for Wilk Fossey if she's going to want to take this game too.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll be really interesting to see because with that Incineroar on the field, we didn't see it click Fake Out at any point, mostly because the Psychic Terrain was active. But if she opts to go Zapdos plus anything other than that Lele, she leaves herself open to a potential Fake Out from that Incineroar.
You could theoretically lead like Zapdos plus Landorus with the Lele in the back with the switch-in option. The other thing that's possible is leading Zapdos, and if the Incineroar is out, potentially a Max Knuckle plus another move would KO the Porygon 2, even because it's a boosted Max Knuckle. So potentially a Max Knuckle plus an attack from Landorus KOs Porygon 2, not even having to deal with the Fake Out. Other than that, I'm not exactly sure like what the strategy should be for on Wilk Fossey's end, whether or not to click the taunt and switch to Lele or something else.
Yeah, for sure. So we might even see Justin anticipate some of those moves right there. So we see she kind of contemplates what does she want to bring for this matchup, deciding that she likes the 4 from the first game, but let's rearrange them in a slightly different order to try and give myself the best possible positioning. In terms of what Justin brings this time, do you see there's any reason not to just go ahead and lead the exact same thing?
I think he could potentially predict the lead of the Zapdos. Other than that, I think he feels comfortable leading both the Porygon 2 and something to support it at the start of the game.
Yeah, for sure. So we actually see a completely different lead from Justin Snores here, bringing out the Sun mood of this team with the Charizard plus the Landorus. Again, we're not sure how he's going to be able to set the Sun for his Charizard solar power, but presumably there is some secret tech somewhere on this team.
Yeah, I mean, and this is just a very strong combination, especially in the Dynamax metagame. This Landorus can just freely click, potentially Scarf Earthquake, and outspeed everything on the field, while the Charizard clicks Max Airstream, MG Max Wildfire, leading to a very snowball-like effect of just dealing more damage into more damage. And if you can't stop one of the turns, then you can't stop any of the turns.
Yeah, for sure. So, given the fact that we have 3 Pokemon on the field that are currently not grounded, they are both not going to take any damage from Earthquake, but are also suspect to any kind of priority moves coming from the other side of the field. That's something we could see come into effect. I don't see anything with Fake Out right now. And actually, now that we were talking earlier about the Lele play, that wouldn't have worked because Incineroar can still go ahead and Fake Out the Zapdos because it is not grounded, despite the fact that it looks grounded.
Yeah, at this point, it seems like Wolffoss is going to have to call what the Charizard is targeting here, whether or not to call that it's not targeting the Zapdos and attack with it, or call that it is targeting the Zapdos and max guard. But as we do see, the Zapdos is immediately Dynamaxing here in a fastball, a very good choice for Galarian Zapdos.
Very good choice, and if we do see a Dynamax here from Justin Snores, we get some good information about the relative speed tiers of these Pokemon. We all know that these are new Pokemon, or old Pokemon with slightly retooled stats, so I think everyone's still at the point where they're trying to pin in exactly where they fall on their speed tiers. Yeah. So,
based on the fact that this Charizard is Dynamaxing second, I'm going to assume that both of these base 100 Pokemon are going to be max speed, and it's probably a speed tie.
Yeah.
In which case, winning the speed tie is going to be very important for who gets to attack when.
Yep, so we do see, if it was a speed tie, Wolffoss won the first one. Zapdos goes ahead and eats up that Rock Slide pretty well for being a flying type. It's fighting type, helping put in some work there as the Charizard wins the second speed tie with the max Airstream, and it's a one-hit KO into that Zapdos.
Yeah, it was going to come down to that 50-50 based on the way the players were playing. And Justin was just he got the coin flip, and the Charizard took out the Zapdos.
Yeah.
While requiring the Life Orb to take out that KO, because I believe without the Life Orb, that Charizard does not KO with just a basic max Airstream.
Yeah, for sure. Do we know, I'm not as familiar with my +1 Zapdos calcs just yet, how much would a max Airstream coming out from that Zapdos have done? I don't think it would have been enough to pick.
I don't think it KOs, but I'm not 100% positive.
Yeah, so it doesn't feel like the best trade overall for Wolffoss if that was the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the issue would be, like, you would have to double into the Charizard with the Psychic and an Airstream at that point, and then potentially that helps you win the game. But we do see the Landorus switch out into the Tapu Fini, resetting the Landorus' move selection, showing it with Scarf last turn, allowing it to kind of late game sweep with a potential Earthquake, knowing what's left on the field. As the Tabu switches out into the Dragapult.
Yeah, really interesting play. Justin being able to go ahead and make that call to limit the Dragapult's damage output from its Dragon type of moves with that Misty Terrain. Amy does still have the ability to reset that terrain back to Psychic Terrain next turn, and we'll see just how much this Max Flare does. Only about 40%, but the field effect now, the G-Max Wildfire, I'm sorry, not Max Flare, G-Max Wildfire will now be dealing a pretty good chunk of damage to Amy's team for the remainder of this game, more than likely.
Yeah, and at this point, Justin theoretically doesn't even have to target the Dragapult one more time for the rest of the game, and it will get KO'd by the G-Max Wildfire.
Yeah.
So potentially just clicking Airstream plus Moonblast into the Thievul kind of would just pin Wolffoss in a position where she really cannot recover from. But there are, again, plenty of options that would kind of do the same thing at the point after winning the speed tie and KOing the Dynamax without it getting a single attack off.
Yeah, so we see here the Psychic Terrain coming back in from this Tapu Lele, and Thievul will go for the Snarl, now being incredibly fast with that Unburden, and it's going to go ahead and lower both Charizard and Tapu Fini's special attack stage by 1.
We do see the Max Airstream come out this time into the Tapu Lele, leaving it with 41 health left. As I assume we're going to see a Moonblast or a Dazzling Gleam from this Tapu Fini coming out. And now at this point at +2 speed.
We see a Heal Pulse come out from this Tapu Fini, an interesting tech.
Recovering at 25% because, again, with Dynamax mechanics, any attack or healing move that would do, it's the 50% like Nature's Madness or Super Fang, is split in half, doing 50% of the original HP stat and not the Dynamax HP stat. But at this point, the Charizard kind of can't be KO'd with the combination of having heal pulse help and just being faster at this point than everything.
Yeah. And being able to completely ignore this Tapu Lele, knowing it will go down to just the G-Max Wildfire, but the best damage that this Charizard has is Heat Wave, so it's just going to go ahead and take it off right there as this Thievul goes for another Fake Tears, the first Fake Tears, hoping to maybe still outspeed with that Scarf Lele. It looks like that was not the case.
No. And at this point, another, I believe this is the third turn of G-Max Wildfire, and the fourth one will just take out this Thievul.
Yeah, and leaving it a 1 versus 4 with Dragapult. Currently it's Psychic Terrain, but Justin does have the ability to recycle that Tapu Fini out and make it back to Misty Terrain to cut down the damage of any of Amy's moves by a pretty significant amount. And actually, that Fake Tears last turn might have been smarter than we thought, as I just got a sneak preview of the moveset on this Dragapult. Not quite what I was expecting.
Yeah, I definitely was not expecting a special variant of Dragapult, although at this point in the game, and with the Tapu Fini avoiding the Snarl, the Dragapult should just go down to a Moonblast here very quickly.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think a neutral Moonblast is going to go ahead, and I don't think it's going to live a neutral Moonblast from here. Or I believe -1.
-2.
Yeah,
it's
-2.
-2, I believe, at this point, but
okay.
At 38 HP, I don't think it's going to be surviving this one.
Yeah, I don't think it would live the the Life Orb chip combined with the max Wildfire for the remainder of this game. So
yeah.
That wraps up our first best of 3 here in Series 7 in pretty quick fashion, with Justin Snores making pretty good work in game number 1 with the Trick Room, and then switching it up in game number 2 with the G-Max Charizard, going for that field effect of the G-Max Wildfire.
Yeah, it was a good games of both of these players. It was a really interesting showing from Justin, showing the two very distinct modes of the team, and how both of them operate against really the same matchup, and what adjustments you can make even after you win a game 1.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, some good lessons there in terms of the best of 3. Kind of that aspect of trying to prime them to expect the same exact mode, and then bam, here's something else that completely counters your counter to the counter. So it's starting to think 2 to 3 steps ahead. So really great play by both of our players. We're all here. This is our VGC Monday Night Friendlies. We're here to learn. We're here to have friendly battles and try and get better. I think that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, I would agree.
With that, we're gonna throw real quick. Oh hey, thanks so much for the follow, JFuse2. Welcome to the ATX VGC Monday Night Friendlies. We are just wrapping up here with set number 1, and what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to throw to our BRB screen for just 1 second while we get the game number 2 announcers ready to go, and we'll have Wave versus Bat in game number 2. So we'll be right back.
Hey, you like that video? We think you should check this out, and YouTube thinks you should check this one out. Be sure to subscribe for more content.